battle that's being fought on our southern border. Violence from the drug wars has cost nearly 30,000 people their lives, and that's just in the last 4 years. My next guest believes the drug cartels may have a partner in crime, terrorist group Hezbollah, and she's called for a task force to investigate these possible connections. Joining us now, North Carolina Congresswoman Sue Myrick, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congresswoman, this is scary stuff. When we think about the drug cartels, that's bad enough, and we know that people are getting killed along the border. But this porous border, where we see people running across at will, if Hezbollah, a very, very deadly terrorist organization, can use that network to get into the U.S., all of these pat-downs at the airport are meaningless.
No, it's true, and people don't want to think Hezbollah is bad. You know, they aren't as dangerous as al-Qaeda. Well, the bad part about Hezbollah is they are the best trained in the world. They are well-financed. They are sponsored by Iran. They operate freely in the world, and their danger is the capacity that they have for operations. They're very, very good. And so it is like right there in Mexico. We know they've been in South America for years. And in fact, you know, the president of Iran and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela are very good friends. So we've been told that Iranians go from, of course, Iran into Venezuela, stay up to 2 years, learn the language, get false documents, and then transit up through Mexico to come across our border.
Now, this is pretty explosive information, because we're not hearing this, not from the Department of Homeland Security. You say that we have Hezbollah agents that are networking their way into the United States by way of the Mexican border. But do you get any affirmation from that? Do they agree with you at Department of Homeland Security?
Well, the Homeland Security has not answered my letter. I wrote them a letter about this back in June, and they had a spokesman say we have no evidence of operational abilities by Hezbollah, you know, on the border. And at the same time they're doing that, our district attorney in New York is basically handing down indictments for a Mexican operative of Hezbollah who was trading arms for drugs with the Colombian terrorist organization FARC. Mexico has already been arresting people in Mexico for this. And, you know, it's just like nobody wants to pay attention, and our administration just seems to have a disconnect.
Why? I don't understand it. And where do you get the information that they are operative, and why would the administration sort of say, we don't have any evidence of it?
Well, for instance, the former head of operations for DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, said that they are operating with the drug cartels. They use the same traffickers for drugs. They use the same smugglers for arms. They use the same transportation networks as the drug cartels do. They are working together. I mean, it makes sense. You know, they want to move drugs, weapons in the United States, and tunnels. You know, we have very sophisticated tunnels under the San Diego area of the border. And, you know, as you know, Danny, they have been really doing tunnels over there for a long time into Israel. We're seeing the same thing there. So, you know, they're experts in building tunnels.
Danny, how surprising is it to you to find out that Hezbollah is active in Mexico and in Central America, and that they're building this network in order to get entry into the United States?
I am not surprised at all, Governor. I was in Colombia about a year ago, and the president showed me that on the border between Venezuela and Colombia, there are training camps of Hezbollah warriors that are being trained by Iranians as we speak. So if they are in Colombia now and being fed from Venezuela, so they will get to the U.S. And I think it's much deeper. If the U.S. will not deal with the threat coming from Iran, Iran will send their people, it can be Hezbollah, it can be other forces, into the U.S.
Now, you know, a lot of Americans certainly understand that Hezbollah is an enemy of Israel. But I think sometimes we forget that Iranian-backed Hezbollah sees Israel as the little Satan, but they see the United States as the great Satan. The ultimate target is not you guys, it's still us. And why don't we see that, Congresswoman?
I don't know why we don't see it. You know, when you talk about training and what they're doing with the drug cartels, certainly after I wrote the letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security just asking for the task force, and that was in June, we saw the first cell phone detonated car bomb in Mexico. Now, we haven't seen that here. You know, in Colombia, yes, and of course in the Mideast we see it. But that's another indication that they are working together with the drug cartels, because it was a drug cartel case.
So you have the drug cartels who are using the expertise of Hezbollah, one of the most sophisticated terrorist organizations, for their own sinister purposes.
Sure.
But Hezbollah obviously is using it because it gets them access to the United States without having to worry about getting on an airplane. Danny, what should the United States, from the perspective of an Israeli who's been dealing with Hezbollah your entire life, what should our number one approach to Hezbollah be?
I think there are two stages. One is to deal with Iran. We cannot ignore it. Hezbollah gets paid from Iran, training from Iran. You cannot say it's only Hezbollah. So we have to deal with the main threat for the Western society, which is Iran today. Then in the issue of Hezbollah, they must hunt them down. We did it in Lebanon. They should do it also in Mexico, wherever they're hiding.
All I've asked is, let's set up a task force with our people and the Mexican officials and find out what the truth is. Find out what the problem and what the threat is.
If there is Hezbollah operating, then it is a big concern to all of us. And I hope that, first of all, you'll contact your own senator and congressperson and tell them to join with Congresswoman Myrick and ask that the Department of Homeland Security take this threat very seriously.
Thank you.
Danny Dannon, thank you. Congresswoman Sue Myrick, great to have you here. Coming up, we're going to